For All presents Daily Food Series, Galatians, the only gospel, the gospel of Christ. Title of Book 1, Following the Spirit to Fulfill God's Work, by Pedro. Week 4. He who once persecuted us now preaches the faith. Saturday. The law and faith do not mix. Read with prayer. Then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, and remained with him 15 days. But I saw none of the other apostles except James, the Lord's brother. Galatians chapter 1, verses 18 and 19. After his conversion on the way to Damascus, Paul stayed there for some days. However, later he fled from there because of the persecution of the Jews who wanted to kill him. Acts chapter 9, verses 19, 23, and 25. It was probably at this time that he left for the regions of Arabia and then returned again to Damascus. Galatians chapter 1, verse 17. Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, and remained with him 15 days. But I saw none of the other apostles except James, the Lord's brother. Galatians chapter 1, verses 18 and 19. Given his past, Paul was not well received when he arrived in Jerusalem and tried to join the disciples, but they feared him. However, Barnabas intervened and convinced his companions by telling them how Paul had seen the Lord Jesus. Acts chapter 9, verses 26 and 27. Thus, Paul remained with them at Jerusalem, coming in and going out, and he spoke boldly in the name of the Lord Jesus and disputed with the Hellenists, but they attempted to kill him. When the brethren found out, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him out to Tarsus. Verses 28 through 30. It is noteworthy here that Paul was with Peter for 15 days, not to receive instructions, nor was he under Peter's command, but to extend fellowship, since Peter was already an apostle before him. It is interesting to note that he mentions that he did not see any other apostles, but he did see James, the Lord's brother. This is very strange, because besides Peter, there were 11 other apostles, but none of them were there. It is believed that Paul specified that it was James, the brother of Jesus, because he did not consider him to be one of the apostles who were close to the Lord. John records that none of Jesus' brothers followed him during his earthly ministry. John chapter 7, verse 5. In fact, unlike Jesus, they sought fame. Verses 2 and 3. They suggested that he manifest himself to the world because they wanted status. Jesus himself stated that a prophet was not honored in his own house. He was not honored by his blood brothers or by his countrymen. Matthew chapter 13, verses 55 through 58. Due to such unbelief, they were deprived of the many miracles that the Lord could perform. Despite this, James became a notable man among Jesus' disciples, to the point of using his authority to mix the practice of the law with faith, completely diverting the church in Jerusalem from the central point of faith in its second phase. Acts chapter 15, verses 12 through 21. Probably when Paul went up to Jerusalem in the year AD 40, James was already exercising leadership, perhaps because he was Jesus' brother and a pious man. Due to his conciliatory position, revealed in his final opinion at the meeting in Acts 15, in the year AD 50, he was elevated to be the main leader by those who were of the circumcision. Chapter 11, verse 2. Consequently, Peter was left aside, as was the word of the apostles. The apostolic teaching at the beginning of the church life brought so much vigor to Jerusalem. The church there became a model for the others. God needs the church in Philadelphia to accomplish his will and bring his kingdom back. It takes as its model this first phase of the church in Jerusalem, when it was characterized by persevering in the apostles' teaching and in fellowship. Acts chapter 2, verse 42. However, this initial vigor was lost under the leadership of James. The life that resulted from the power of the prophetic word gave way to a new religion, characterized by the mixture of faith and the law. This sought to make conversion in the church life easier for the Jews, and thus the church life became full of rules of the law. There was no longer the freedom of the Spirit. Hence, tens of thousands of Jews were converted. But from that point on, there were no more signs and wonders as proof of God's work. May the Lord deliver his people from situations like this.